Welcome aboard.
Welcome to our program in a nutshell. I'm Bob Savakinas. Today we have a special edition episode. We are live on location at the Stourbridge Line Railroad in Honesdale, Pennsylvania, with the owner of the Stourbridge Line, Mr. Tom Myles. We've had some time to spend on the train filming some of the beautiful scenery here in Honesdale along the Lackawaxen River with our host, Tom Myles. Tom, welcome to our program, and thank you so much for hosting our crew, myself, and everyone else.
Well, Bob, it's an honor to have you all aboard, and all aboard is appropriate, so let's go.
Okay, let's start the show and the train ride.
All right.
There's the whistle stop. So, Tom, you've had a long history of railroading. From what I understand, you're the fourth generation in railroading from your family. Can you tell us a little bit about your family's involvement in railroading?
Well, my family began in 1864, excuse me. My grandfather was located on the Pennsylvania Railroad. My great-great-grandfather was located on the Pennsylvania Railroad as well. We're going to get a little whistle going on here.
Part of the experience of enjoying a train ride.
I guess. That's when we're backing up there, letting people know what's going on. We have, well, I guess I've had four generations. My sons are fifth generation railroaders, and we have enjoyed a long career in America here. We're today on the Stourbridge Line, which actually started the railroad history in 1828. With the Stourbridge Lion, the steam engine that was brought over from England and put on this line to haul coal.
Your involvement was mainly with the Pennsylvania Railroad, where your career began?
Well, my career began on the Pennsylvania Railroad, but subsequent to that was 1963. In 68, they merged with the New York Central Railroad and created the Penn Central Railroad, and then it went to from Penn Central to Conrail. I've also worked at the Washington Terminal Railroad down in Washington, D.C., and I was assigned down there when I was assigned at the Penn Central. Returned to the Penn Central after that assignment in Washington, and also worked for the CSX Railroad after the Conrail was divided up between Norfolk Southern and CSX. I went to work for them and in their marketing and sales group. I've been in operations half of my career, and the other half of my career has been pretty much marketing and so forth. After CSX, I purchased the short line in Wellsboro, known as the Wellsboro and Corning Railroad, and ran that for 8 years, and then I bought the line over here in Honesdale, known as the Stourbridge Line, and started that up. It had been closed for 6 years, and I was looking for a new adventure, and I found Northeast Pennsylvania again. I say again because I was originally, went to school here in Scranton, Pennsylvania, to the University of Scranton. I met my wife in Scranton. I told her to get in the car, we're leaving, and we did. And then some of the rest of it's history, but I'll let you talk a little bit.
The University of Scranton, so you have a love for the Scranton area, for northeastern Pennsylvania. Just you want to see economic development in northeastern Pennsylvania, and I go back to a little bit about this railroad itself. The Stourbridge Line was closed for several years until you purchased it and brought it back. What are some of your experiences here in the Honesdale area as far as the economic development, the tourism that has increased as a result of this railroad coming back to bring in tourists?
Well, that's interesting. The railroads are generally divided into two pieces. They're divided into freight and they're divided into passenger excursion, if you will, in the short line instance. I was primarily a freight man all my life, okay, involved in marketing freight, and everybody's a salesman, I like to say, but on the other hand, marketing was my department. I got involved with transloading. I got involved with scrap metal, waste companies, and ultimately involved over in Wellsboro with the Marcellus Shale, which gave great opportunity on the Wellsboro line to create 6 transloading operations to include sand, water, glass, medical plastics, and so on, and created quite a stir when we went from 300 cars a year on that railroad to almost 16,000 cars a year. We sold the railroad to the Genesee and Wyoming Company as a short line, one of their many short lines, by the way, and they've done very well with it. We, in turn, started to look for the next opportunity. Well, that opportunity seemed to present itself here at Honesdale. The line was abandoned, if you will, and nothing operated over here for 4 to 6 years. In those 4 to 6 years, the trees had grown up, the ties had been washed out by different storms, trees had come down on the line, and it was literally impassable. So in 2008, I said to, at that time, that I would come over here and I would resurrect the railroad, and I have done so. We have refurbished equipment, we have refurbished the railroad, we have repaired culverts, we've repaired ties, equipment, brought new locomotives to the railroad, and we're continuing to do that, and new equipment to the railroad in order to serve the passenger side of the business. Freight side I've been a little less successful with on this particular railroad, although I had great hopes initially to do something with the Marcellus Shale. But it's a little off track for the Marcellus Shale, and the sand opportunities that I hope would bring a lot of business to, and also work, if you will, for the local constituency, kind of fell over into Scranton. And that was fine. At Carbondale, they picked that up, and that was good. It was good for their railroad that also was languishing at that particular moment, and they lucked into having the sand move over there. I'm still not giving up on sand, but I've moved on into steel now, and we're trying to set up some steel processing on the railroad and some stone quarrying and things of that nature to support the lack of stone in southern New Jersey from this area, which has a great quality stone, bluestone, if you will, hard rock. Used very well, by the way, for railroads on their railroad beds, as opposed to a limestone, which is soft and has a tendency to deteriorate quicker.
As far as the business aspect goes, it sounds like you've done well and you've continued to try and expand and make whatever community you get to successful. I look at the tourism aspect of it, and I've been up here several times with appreciating your hospitality and just enjoying the wonderful rail equipment that you have here, the locomotives, your cars, which throughout today's program I know the audience will have a chance to see some of the amazing equipment that you've acquired over time and that you have. For instance, this is a presidential car that we're sitting in right now doing this interview. Can you tell us a little history of this presidential car for our audience to just appreciate what you've brought to northeastern Pennsylvania with this car alone?
Well, I acquired this car in 2008, but it was actually built in 1922 for the president of the B&O Railroad. And as you know, the B&O Railroad serves Washington, D.C., and was, as a custom at that time, the president of the B&O or the president of the Pennsylvania Railroad would always offer the car to the service of the President of the United States. 3 presidents have operated on this car. We had Calvin Coolidge, Herbert Hoover, and FDR.
So we are sitting in history. We're sitting in a very historical piece of equipment.
Yes, we have the President Roosevelt's bedroom down the hall here. We have Eleanor's, and we have the secretary who rode along with them on various trips to keep the train in communication. Every time the train would stop, it's not like today, but every time the train would stop, then they would run up and plug the train in with a telephone, and the president could be contacted and talk to whomever he needed to talk to. Interesting times, I'm sure. Today, just pushes a few buttons and there it is, you know.
And I've seen you do that with your railroad. Get on your cell phone and have them stop at different places to do something.
Do this.
So not only the history of this railroad itself, but you also make it very tourist friendly. I know you've done many interesting activities. You've had a group of Civil War generals, the Confederation of Union Generals, make appearances on your train talking about their roles in the Civil War. You've had President Jefferson, you've had Mrs. Jefferson on your train, President Lincoln. I know you've had various interpreters of history as part of the programming that goes on here. So not only are tourists afforded the opportunity to enjoy a train ride, the beautiful scenery, and again, it's amazing the Lackawaxen River, how beautiful it is just for the tourism part of it. But you also have some upcoming events, and I'd like to talk a little bit about that. Currently, we're looking at the Halloween season. So you have a pumpkin picking express or something like that. Would you care to tell us a little bit about what that involves?
Pumpkin Express, yes. That's actually the greatest train we put on last year for the first time. And I love to watch the little kids run around in this pumpkin patch and pick up a pumpkin and try to drag it back to mom and dad, you know. And some of them we really do buy small ones for them to do that with. However, they always go for that big one too, you know. And it is actually hilarious to watch these kids enjoy this pumpkin patch. And then they all go home with a pumpkin and they have a great time. We also have Christmas tree trains where we go out and take cut Christmas trees, and they pick out the one they want and we take them home on a flat car and they can, or in a box car or whatever we're going to use that day. And they name their tree and in it goes. And then of course, we have the infamous Santa Claus Express.
I was hoping Santa makes an appearance on your train.
Oh, he does. He really does.
What are the reactions of the family and the kids to be on a train, not only enjoying the train ride, but seeing Santa Claus?
Well, it's absolutely fascinating to watch the adults as much as the children in that case, because they all want their picture, including the adults, with Santa Claus. And we have these large tickets that they get on the train, which is a souvenir ticket for them. And we have various different candy canes for them, and we have hot chocolate and cookies on the train, and we have...
You need hot chocolate and cookies for Santa.
Got to have hot chocolate and cookies. And we have elves, and we have reindeer, and we have, of course, obviously, the fat man himself, okay? And he's a ho-hoing and having a great time. The kids always want to, give him a list of whatever they want for Christmas, and they all come, by the way, a lot of them, I should say, come in pajamas with their blankets. They think it's the overnight train type thing, and they put on that feeling of Christmas. We actually are talking about moving the whole thing to White Mills, which is our local town second down from Honesdale. And we have an acreage out there that we'd like to actually build a village, where we'd like to have Santa actually entertain the children and the parents at that time, maybe on the village as opposed to necessarily on the train. I have mixed emotions about that.
It sounds like it's also another economic development idea in which you would probably have different businesses selling their items, their crafts, their food products and everything to the people on the train. And
we have proposed and we have cooperated with many organizations in the various towns up and down the line, whether it's Honesdale, Hawley, Lackawaxen. We deal with fire companies, we deal with breweries, we deal with food distributors, we deal with, actually I think we have 172 vendors on the railroad. That's a lot of people we put to work, whether they're providing some kind of service or some kind of repair or whatever. It's a very formidable business in an industry, in a town, in a county like this. Wayne and Pike County, we operate through two counties, and we're in the Pocono northeast region of the Visitors Bureau and all that. Great supporters of ours, by the way. The towns have been great supporters of ours, and we try to do something for them. As a matter of fact, we have a list of vendors that we give every ticket buyer on the train, and they get 10 or 15% off of whatever they're involved in. right off the top if they show them their ticket.
It sounds like you're a great community partner, or partnerships have been developed between the railroad in addition to the different businesses, small businesses, I assume a lot of them are, and just the cooperation between local government working with you on making a beautiful event like this happen for tourists probably throughout the United States come to visit you here.
Well, small business is what America's all about, frankly. I know there's some large ones in the world, and I was involved in them, but the fact is small businesses are far more numerous and supply people with a livelihood, a lot of people. And I do support that. I also support this area because of the beauty of this area. Northeast Pennsylvania, in particular Wayne and Pike County, are just phenomenally beautiful. I would like to expand my operation a little bit over towards Scranton if I can. That's something we're looking at, expansion, always looking at expansion and what we can do in various communities. Of course, Scranton being where I married my wife. I've had 4 children out of that marriage. Can't handle anymore. And that's where I really feel very comfortable in Scranton. I feel very comfortable in Northeast Pennsylvania, including Luzerne County. These stations are kind of popping back up on these tourist lines and are becoming very effective. We've done a lot with Hawley. We've done some things with the Zane Grey Museum and the fire companies down in Lackawaxen. I hope to do more down there. We've done a lot in the Hawley with the antique stores and all the different vendors there and people who have different events, if you will. Much like any other tourist railroads, we try to fit in, if you will, and be a party to that game to support it. And people love to ride the train and take it down to Hawley and go shopping and then get on the one coming back later on and come back up to Honesdale. And believe it or not, it's a 10-mile drive, but it's more fun to get on the train and go down and do it.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Tom Myles, the person. I was graciously treated to your model train display in your home outside the Philadelphia area, and you know, some people collect model trains, and well, you collect model trains, but you also collect large-scale real trains and everything. It's not often that you meet somebody like that. So what really got you into railroading? I'm assuming your family, but what got you into the idea that you wanted to be involved in railroading?
I'm not sure I can actually identify the moment, other than the fact I can tell you since 1948, when I was 4 years old, I got my first train set. When I graduated in 1967 from college, my dad looked at me and he said, "Well, what are you going to do, Tom?" I looked at him in kind of a quizzical way and I said, "Well, Dad, I'm going to go to work on the railroad." He said, "The railroad?" I said, "Yeah, Dad, I was always going to go to work on a railroad," because I thought that's what I loved and it was my passion, if you will. So while I act like an engineer in the sense of a civil engineer, all right, I tend to be a little more detailed. I have been an engineer. I've been a block operator. I've been a brakeman. I've been a lot of things on the railroads over the years and have a lot of skills. But the railroad is where my heart is. It's where my passion is. And that's why I keep going at it.
I've seen you walk up and down your rail cars, mainly in the pre-COVID era and things, in which you just engage the customer so much. You talk with your tourist, if you want to call it that. You spend time with people, and you have the people skills. I look at the idea, though, when I see a little child getting on your train, and I just wonder what goes through their mind, like maybe someday I want to grow up to work on the railroad or be involved. And I see that there are a lot of opportunities in railroading. I know a while back you spoke with the University of Scranton, their business school. You looked at the idea of looking at a possible transportation management type of degree program and everything. So I guess it's more of an observation. How do you feel about seeing a little child getting on your train, showing such a love for it that potentially down the road they could graduate from a school in northeastern Pennsylvania with a transportation degree?
It's part of my plan.
Tell us your plan then, Tom, a little bit about it.
I went to the University of Scranton about 4 years ago or 5 years ago and asked him, if, the dean of the business school, if he was interested in, and by the way, the president of the school as well. Both gentlemen were interested in my proposal, if you will, to start a course, if you will, that would give them a BS degree when they got out of Scranton. And it was associated with also kind of an arts class where they would have hands-on learning about the mechanical relative equipment, or the maintenance of way relative to the repair of the railroad, and or the operations end of the railroad, which are the three key areas: operations, maintenance of way, and maintenance of equipment. And bring them into the world of railroading. Of course, then there's the marketing side of the railroading as well, okay? But I'm really looking to bring young men and young women into the industry who can appreciate what they have here, and the immensity of the railroad size and the job that it really does. Thousands and hundreds of thousands of cars every year move on the railroad, and across the United States of America, transporting everything from tomatoes to toothpaste. And it's a great, even though we have a great interstate system thanks to Eisenhower, we actually have a railroad that takes traffic off the trucks, if you will, and lets those roads today, which have more automobiles than ever, travel a little easier and with less complications. The school is encouraging me to do that. I would love very much to work with Steamtown in creating the arena, if you will, for the mechanical end of it. There is a place there to do that. If it doesn't happen there, it could happen elsewhere in another location. It's just one of those things that we'll work on. There are other schools that are interested over in this side of the world that are also kind of looking at me with an eye to the future as to what I want to do. We're actually developing the town of Honesdale. We're looking now for some grants and work to expand Honesdale and expand the stations and expand the railroad's presence in Honesdale relative to what it can bring to Honesdale.
I have an education background, so for me, I'm very excited to hear about this, and hopefully we will be able to develop this in northeastern Pennsylvania and the Scranton area to take advantage, if I want to use those terms, of your experience and your knowledge in railroading and your ability to want to invest in northeastern Pennsylvania, and it sounds like in the Scranton area specifically. So hopefully those things will happen. I also look at just your railroading equipment, and I know we talked earlier that you're looking at bringing more cabooses in, so you're again expanding this railroad here in Honesdale, not only for the excursion rides on the passenger cars, but now you're looking at cabooses or something. Do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about your plans or your ideas of what future equipment that you're bringing to this area?
Well, we're also thinking about a dinner train over here. We now have commissioned to do our second dining car. We have one on the train today. We have a second one being now brought into the fold to be redone inside, restoration they call it. That will serve for us to have over 110 seats in the car once COVID is gone. If I get the dining car that I'd like to have, we'll have almost 150 seats to run a very nice dining train down what I consider a beautiful, beautiful park. This is just a gorgeous area over here. The river itself, the rock cuts that you'll see, the different facilities that are along the railroad, and the lack of facilities that are along the railroad make it just beautiful.
You also have a nice workstation, a work area, the Project 505 trolley, electric trolley that's being restored from Scranton area, I know is in your shop being worked on. Do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about what your staff does as far as restoration and repair of the equipment or equipment that's brought in?
Well, obviously equipment requires parts, and it requires painting, It requires welding, it requires electrical, it requires all the basic mechanical elements, if you will, of repairing a car. We got them right down to bare metal. We prime them up and paint them, and we'll put wood in them, or we put whatever's necessary to make them functional, if you will, including new wheels or whatever's necessary in that respect.
You also have two very impressive locomotives, I know, that you use for your railroad, in addition to ones that you're negotiating to bring in and everything. But the first one, the Pennsylvania Railroad locomotive, again, I know that's one of your personal favorites because where you worked with the Pennsylvania Railroad. Any story on that locomotive that you want to share with our rail fans out there? I know you had it repainted recently, so...
Oh, we did. We just repainted it. We brought it out of Michigan. It was stopped in Cleveland, had a little work done to it there, and then we decided we'd move it home and do it here ourselves. The one I'd like to tell you about is my GG1 experience, but I think I'll leave that go for another time.
Okay, well, perhaps we'll come back again. You'll invite us back to your railroad to do another show or an episode and continue the stories on the GG1.
Well, when you're operating a locomotive, it's a real thrill. That's all I can tell you. You're in control of a lot of tonnage and a lot of people's lives, and you're trying to manage everything at one moment, watching out for crossings, watching out for animals, watching out for problems on the railroad like a washout or a broken rail or something like that, and you need to take immediate action to avoid any issues, if you will. However, we're very fortunate. We try to maintain our railroads well, and so therefore we don't have very many of those issues. Every once in a while we'll get a tree down, but then we got a couple chainsaws up in the engine and we go to work.
Speaking of chainsaws, it just dawned on me another major event that you have coming up here for our audience to be aware of. You have the actor Dan Yeager from the Texas Chainsaw movie, horror movie, of course, with the Halloween season upon us and everything. So I believe on Halloween night you're going to be hosting a special event here on the train, out into your grove with the bonfire and events like that. Again, another one of your marketing ideas for your train and your railroad. Is there anything you'd like to add additionally to that?
Dan Yeager has become an interesting thing that I've befriended him. He's a great guy.
Yes, he is.
And he's a gentle giant, I call him. He stands about that tall. I definitely look at his belt, and he's a huge man, but he's as gentle a giant as I've ever seen. However, the part that he played in the Halloween movie is a different story.
Yes, it is.
All right. He's coming out on Halloween to be on our last train, where we're going out to White Mills, as you said. We've got a bonfire. It's an adult-only train.
You're encouraging costumes.
I'm encouraging costumes because we're going to have a contest on the best costume. We're going to have a contest also where we give away a brand new free chainsaw signed by Dan.
So some lucky person's going to walk away with an autographed chainsaw from Leatherface himself.
And I hope somebody actually wins. Maybe we should do first, second, and third prize instead of just first prize, because I think I'd like to have these people dress up, and they do, by the way, dress up. So we'll see how that goes. I encourage everybody to come out and do that.
And all that information is available on your website at the Stourbridge Line Railroad, so the audience can find out all the details and everything about prices, the times, and all those different events that we talked about. Tom, I just want to wrap up a little bit by just saying, you're a University of Scranton graduate. You've spent a lot of time in northeastern Pennsylvania. You've invested in the Honesdale area. You've invested in other railroads, as we hear. You're also a veteran, a father, a grandfather, and everything. What is one of your most proudest accomplishments, if you had to say, in this very, very interesting life that you've led? And if you can't pick one, just elaborate maybe a little bit on what you are proud of.
Boy, you hit on a lot of stuff there.
Well, you've had a very interesting life.
I'm very proud of being a veteran in the United States, Vietnam veteran. I was awarded the Bronze Star.
Congratulations. And thank you for your service.
So to that extent, I'm very proud of that moment. I'm extremely proud of my children and my family, my wife, who have supported me all my life in what I've tried to do. My sons are still interested in the railroads, but they are managing other things that we do right now and are devoid. My son-in-law is still very, very much involved with me. The family will continue to grow and hopefully continue the railroad history. We're trying to put together a plan now for what happens to this railroad and the equipment. And I want it to stay right where it is, and I want it to, if you will, support the local economy here in Northeast PA. It brings a lot of people here. They're all buying motels and dinners and that little widget that they can't do without, you know, and an antique shop or whatever. And actually, it's kind of fun to meet them, and you said something earlier about that. I love going through the train, and I love meeting the children, because they're all going googly-eyed, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And Mom and Dad enjoy the fact that I talk to the children, not them, although I do talk to them as well. We run veteran specials, we run Santa Claus, well, you know, we talked about that. Excuse me, I want to back up a minute. We run winter express trains through the snow. That's always a lot of fun. And we blast through the snow and the flows off to either side. We operate, we hope to operate dinner trains, ultimately on the train. And that's where we're at. I guess what is my favorite thing in life? The railroad.
Well, Tom Myles, thank you so much for spending the time with us, allowing us the opportunity to be here on your very special railroad car, in addition to your railroad and all the things that you have. Wish you so much more continued success in developing your railroad and your plans, your marketing, your ideas of getting involved in specifically the Scranton area and helping us develop even more economically and bringing this wonderful train and your equipment and everything to us. So thank you so much. Hopefully you'll invite us back again. Any closing words or comments?
Well, like I said earlier, it is an honor to be here, and I thank you for this time and effort on your part and the staff and everybody who's here. I'm here. We're going to go, and we're going to run some trains.
Thank you, Tom Myles. I'm Bob Savakinas. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in to our special edition program, In a Nutshell, on the Stourbridge Line Railroad. Please come out and support this railroad and enjoy the continued activities that they have to offer.
Now, the second problem with steam locomotive is that the big steam locomotives had a very big design flaw. The big steam locomotives could not sit down. Now, why couldn't a big steam locomotive sit down, you might ask? Well, it's because it had a tender behind! Tender for the cold water. Okay, that out. But